Because you can think of it as being SEO for your brain, right? So you're putting in a keyword and bang, we come to mind. That's what we're trying to do. So if you don't know how the mind works, then what are you going to do? Wave a wet finger in the air and hope that, the wind's coming from the north or what? I mean, I don't know. How are you going to do it? Use the force? I don't get it. I don't understand how people think it's going to happen. What, we just pay Google, Facebook, Insta, tick these guys loads of money and we think that we're going to get sales? No, right? 90% of that traffic is from bots, right?
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. From across the pond, as we say, I'm really excited to welcome G to the show. G. Ranasinha, hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
You did a great job.
I love your brand ethos. You simply say, we want to make people look good. In your bio, you talk about starting in the years of dial-up. And I also talk about that sometimes, particularly with my students, so that they understand the whole breadth and depth of what it means to be in the digital space, in the marketing space, in sales, and how we've seen these transformations working from the very early days when people didn't necessarily have websites to completely transforming the way that people are seen today. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to dive into this conversation.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Annika. I'm delighted to be invited.
Of course. Let's talk about your background in marketing. You have had a lot of roles. You decided to start
Yes. I've been in marketing a long time, since mid-90s, I'd say. Like you mentioned, since the days of dial-up internet and AOL CDs, if you remember those.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So in the marketing space anyway, for 7 years, I was the worldwide director of marketing for a software company who was serving clients such as Time Inc., IKEA, Nestle, Airbus, Marvel. And so when I was CMO, I was, whenever I invited marketing agencies to pitch for our business, I was constantly frustratingly disappointed that none of them would take any fiduciary responsibility for the marketing plans they proposed, right? So they were interested in all the tactical stuff, web design and ads and events and PR and all that stuff, which is, great, wonderful, superb. But, nobody was asking me about the business result on which the marketing plan needed to deliver. And even then, I just thought that was absolutely bonkers, right? And then it dawned on me, I'd been there 7 years, and it dawned on me that I can't have been the only one, right? There must be a ton of startups and small businesses out there needing help with marketing, but looking at it from a business perspective, designing and managing a marketing plan to generate qualified leads to ultimately produce a tangible commercial difference, right? And at the same time, we're talking about 2007, okay? So the internet was beginning to radically affect our day-to-day lives, okay? The iPhone had just come out. Broadband became, an affordable expense for, the average person, okay? But as usual, it was the big brands who were the ones taking advantage of the potential of the internet, right? Because they had greater technical experience, greater expertise, greater resources, and deeper pockets. And at the time, small businesses were getting left behind. So I thought there was an opportunity to offer a marketing resource aimed at small businesses and startups who could actually leverage the power of marketing in its widest sense, not just online, not just digital, but marketing. It's the reason why that we define ourselves as a marketing agency and not a digital marketing agency. Okay. See, so I was looking around when I was working as a CMO for a marketing agency that took that kind of approach, and I couldn't find one. So we started our own. And that was January 2008. So I resigned my comfortable corporate job, right?
Yeah.
With all its
Steady
trappings
income
of,
and
steady income, international
vacation.
travel, company BMW, expense accounts and all that stuff. And we launched Kexino at the beginning of 2008, which you remember was not exactly the best time to start a business. But with, not a small amount of luck and the support of some absolutely fantastic clients who we had at the time, some of them who are still with us today, we weathered the storm of the post-boom recession. And 17 odd years later, here we are. We've helped over 400 startups and small to medium-sized businesses from a strategic standpoint. And what we're doing now is we're positioning ourselves more than just a marketing agency. We're actually a behavioral science practice. So we're adopting behavioral science theories into marketing at a small business and startup level, which up until now is not really something which is readily available.
Yeah.
Also, I teach. You know what they say about people who can't do, they teach. So I teach marketing and behavioral science to final year MBA students at 2 business schools, which I do in person, face to face. I've been doing it for like a decade and I absolutely love it. And that is me and the agency in a not so small nutshell.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I love the fact that you threw in the teaching at the end. We're speaking a little bit about that before we jumped on. And
yes,
I've been thinking about that phrase a lot this week, and I might have mentioned it in another podcast episode, to be perfectly frank. But what I see today is that we have to go into the classroom with practical applications. I love it when I can bring case studies to my students to really show them, because I do teach for the Masters in Digital Media Management program. And in that, there's not necessarily a book for the most recent AI technology. It's more of me going out and showing them tools that I'm using that can help their marketing plans, help their ad tech strategies, right? And talking to founders that I know who've started programs and projects that I can then demonstrate to my students.
And there aren't any books to go through, Anna, because there shouldn't be any books to go to. And that's half the reason why I got roped into teaching, okay? When I was on the other side of the table, when I was a CMO, I used to get in trainees, interns, and they had fantastic resumes, okay? But I couldn't give them anything to frigging do, right? They were useless, right? You ask them to give you a summary on like Blue Ocean strategy or some other crap, great, right? But I couldn't give them anything tangible, right? So they ended up doing like losers' jobs, like, database cleaning or something, right? Stuff we give AI to do today, right? So I was always moaning and groaning about the quality of interns that we were getting. And then I left and we started Kexino, and it was a few years had gone by. And then a friend of mine who is a teacher at a number of schools, she reached out and she said, look, there's an opening at this university. I think you'd be great at it. I said, Caroline, I can't teach. You're joking. You have to know what you're doing when you're teaching, right? There's people's futures at stake. She goes, seriously, I think you'd be really good for it. At least go and see the dean. So I went and I saw the dean. And he said, look, let's do it for a semester, okay? See what you think. See what the feedback is like, right? See what they think of you as much as what you think of them, the class. And I was still on the fence, and Caroline said, look, you're always moaning about the quality of the students that of the marketing graduates that you're getting. Here you have a chance to do something about it. So basically she was saying shit or get off the pot, right? So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And yeah, look, I just fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it.
Same.
Okay. And the problem with not every school, of course not, but with many schools, is you have teachers who've never actually been outside of those 4 walls. They don't have any practical experience. It's all come from textbooks,
right,
which are dusty and old and totally irrelevant, apart from the very highest level theoretical nonsense. But in terms of actually rolling your sleeves up and getting your fingernails dirty, there isn't anything. So since I have that practical real world experience, both from marketing as well as from sales, because I don't believe that you can actually I don't think you can excel at marketing unless you've been in a sales role at some point in time in your working life. I don't think it can be done.
Yeah.
That's a different subject. So because I've done that, my lessons are totally focused on practical real world experience. So because what I'm trying to do is, I'm not trying to get students to pass an exam. I don't give a crap whether they pass their exam or not. What I'm trying to do is get them to think in a way where their contribution can have value to a potential employer, so that they become a contribution to the success of that organization as soon as possible.
Well,
so they're not doing loser jobs, right? So that they're not cleaning databases and doing just nonsense. And surely that's the job of education, is to get people prepared and useful in their working life, right? Otherwise, what are we doing this? I mean, it's just nonsense.
I would say that this also plays into two things you're very passionate about. One, which is educating small business owners and startups. I have a passion for that as well. I'm on the Intuit Small Business Council here in the United States, and every year we get to speak to Congress about the needs of small businesses. 2 years ago, we were still talking about the digital divide and how a lot of small businesses all over the United States hadn't made the move. Maybe they had a website, but they didn't have full functionality. So when the pandemic hit, they were very ill-equipped to stay in business. And last year, of course, we talked about AI powers Main Street. And this year, it's going to be a lot about artificial intelligence, generative AI, of course, but helping small businesses understand how they can streamline processes to become more effective in their businesses. So then they, cut more out of their expense side, and they can build more revenue and hopefully generate new ideas and really find success in their businesses. So the fact that you were doing this so early on with identifying this need in the market for small businesses to be able to have somebody with your level of expertise, number one, is admirable and amazing. And on the flip side, for the people who you don't have to necessarily go to university to get this education, depending on what kind of job you want. Like, a lot of people do come from the self-taught world, but we do, to the chagrin of both of us, have a lot of people, and even I have fallen prey sometimes to, that's a new thing I need to learn. Let me buy that program from somebody, or let me have them come in and advise me, when you quickly realize they're not who they say they are. They really don't know what they're talking about. They're saying they're selling you one thing, but then they're delivering something else. So there is a whole world of bad actors, in every field, but in marketing and sales, who aren't looking at KPIs, who aren't able to show, what effect what they're doing is going to have on somebody's business and the direct impact that makes a business owner happy and successful and not feel like they just blew a lot of money for naught.
There are a lot of charlatans and snake oil sellers in our industry. I mean, in lots of industries. But I think marketing is very vulnerable for small business owners, especially, to be seduced by these charlatans is the best word to use, unless we're talking about after the watershed, in which case I can use a lot more colourful language. But let's keep it PG for the time being. And these are opportunists, okay? I call them marketing bros, but they're not necessarily male. So these are the people who are crouching in front of Lamborghinis, throwing gang signs and showing you their PayPal accounts and telling you all you need to do is hustle harder and fake it till you make it bull crap. And it just really annoys me, because seriously, I have conversations with small business owners every week, sometimes with them in tears, where they've believed the bullshit and they have spent tens of thousands of dollars with these opportunists, and they've got SFA. You know what SFA means, right? Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure. So I didn't sure that one translated. So they've got SFA to show for it, okay? And now they're in a position where the wolf's at the door, the bank manager's asking questions, and they need to turn things around really quickly. And in many cases, Annika, it's too late. The patient's dead, and I can't do anything to revive it because they sit, unless they look at the sort of refinancing or borrowing money from family, friends, whatever else, it is too late. And it's heartbreaking to see these things because people are coming into this. The thing is about marketing, right, is it's not like any other core business function within an organization because as you just mentioned, you don't need to have a formal qualification to secure a marketing role, right?
Right.
If you want to be a CPA, okay, you have to read a ton of books, you have to go to a ton of classes, you have to pass exams, right, before you can be a CPA, right? If I want to fly a 747, right, I need to go to pilot school and I need to have... they have to test my vision and color reception, and I have to get rechecked every couple of years before they'll let me anywhere near the flight deck, right? If I want to be a surgeon, right, I have to do like 6 years of medical school, and plus then I'm a resident, and then I'm going to a specialty. It could be a decade before anyone will give me a scalpel, right?
Yeah.
Yet anybody with half a brain cell can buy themselves a MacBook Pro and a subscription to Creative Cloud and plant themselves in a Starbucks and call themselves a marketer. And that's half the problem. Not only are businesses employing people in marketing roles based upon what they think marketing's role is within the business, which is wrong, right? Because most people are not hiring marketers for the right thing. They're hiring marketers for promotion. They're not hiring marketers for marketing, okay? Yeah. Which is fine. And, promotion is a valid and very important part of marketing. But that's the point. It's a part of marketing.
Exactly.
It's a very small percentage of what marketing actually is. Too many people who've been in business think marketing's role is websites and blog articles and videos and podcasts and ads and goodness knows what, social media and all that sort of stuff. Yes, that stuff's all important, sure. But the 9/10 of the iceberg that's below the waterline, they don't see, right? They don't see all the customer research, the segmentation, the targeting, the positioning, the branding, all of that sort of the qual analysis, the quant analysis. Nobody sees all of that stuff, but it's happening in marketing. But marketing don't talk about it because nobody's interested. All they're interested is the sexy stuff, which is like tote bags and stress balls and event management and all of that crap, right? And not only have we got the wrong people being hired for the roles, but on the other side, the people who are being hired think marketing's the wrong thing as well. They think marketing is promotions and sticking AI images in Canva templates and thinking that's marketing, right? No disrespect to Canva, by the way. Sorry, I need to say. Canva, I love you guys. You're wonderful people. You're Aussies. Canva's an Australian company. Did you know that? It's an Australian company. I think it's one of the biggest companies in Australia now. Oh. Canva, I love you. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is it's not about the tool. Just like AI, it's not about the tool. It's about the application.
Yes.
And by that I mean, if I spend $2,000 on some chef's knives, doesn't make me Gordon Ramsay, does it? Right? I can spend 10 grand on a Hasselblad camera. I'm not going to take pictures like Annie Leibovitz. It's a tool, and that's what we're missing. And that stuff is hard to do, and it is process driven. There are steps.
Yeah.
I think there's at least 8. Some people say there's more. Some people say there's fewer. It doesn't matter. But there is a process that is involved to get us from the very basic diagnosis all the way through proper, effective tactical execution. And the problem is, because we're reducing everything down, dumbing things down, to purely tactical execution and pretty much digital only tactical execution. Like I said, we're a marketing agency, not a digital marketing agency. And I think it's important to make that distinction, which I'll come to in a minute. Since we're doing that, we have a situation where, are you familiar with Maslow's hammer, the law of the instrument? Yeah. Okay? Which I can paraphrase by saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Okay? So what I mean by that is, if you're digitally centric in your mindset, when you're looking at solving a particular business problem with a marketing execution, you're automatically thinking in a digital frame of mind. Mm. Now, not saying that's wrong, but what I'm saying is there may be other things which are as or maybe even more effective than using digital channels.
Yeah.
And the example I often use, and so it is hackneyed, okay, is, if we were targeting 85-year-old retired mathematics teachers, we probably wouldn't use TikTok as the primary channel of communication. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's plenty of 85-year-old retired mathematics teachers who are using TikTok, but I don't think there are as many.
Right.
Okay? But if we're thinking in a digital first mentality exclusively, while ignoring, without being empathic to the particular expectations of the customer that we're trying to attract, the ICP, the ideal customer profile, the persona, call it what you will, then we're trying to solve all the problems using the same tools in our toolbox each time. But that's not what marketing's all about.
No.
Because the only person who pays our salary is the customer.
Exactly.
So they're the only people that need to like it. I don't care if the website that we designed for your business, your CEO doesn't like it. I don't care. The only person I need to care about who likes it is the target customer.
Yes.
To generate those marketing qualified leads. That's all that matters, because that's the ones who are paying all of our salaries. I've talked a lot. You need to ask me something.
Oh, yeah. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And one thing that I always try to impart, whether it's with a client or with my students, is you don't need to be everywhere all the time. When you're looking at, don't just consider demographics of, we should be on TikTok or we should be on Instagram, but psychographically, is that the right place for your ideal avatar, persona, or customer profile? It might not be. And the other thing is, we do leave out a huge portion of the market, the people who actually have disposable income right now versus the people who are going to have more spending power in the future. And we're forgetting and shunning all of the people who actually would become really brand loyal and spend their money today by only focusing on a few channels or a few distribution methods. So to your point, there is a place for direct mail. There's a really good place for email marketing. I've done campaigns where we had bus
Annika,
posters.
You've hit the nail on the head so sharply. Direct mail right at the minute is so effective for certain customer profiles.
Yeah.
It is untrue. It's off the friggin' scale, but it's not sexy. It's not interesting.
Right.
And it's because we're designing stuff for ourselves, but we are not our target market. I don't care what you're selling, to whom you're selling it to. The very fact that you are sitting on the other side of the table means that your opinion is moot, right? The only way you can find out what's going on in the head of your ideal customer profile is by, here's a revelation, talking to them, right? But there was a HBR article a few months ago, sometimes before Christmas, I think it was, and they said that more than 50% of CMOs and marketing managers hadn't spoken to a customer in the past 6 weeks.
Really?
I think that's scandalous. I mean, they're not doing their jobs. I mean, what the hell are they doing? Just being in meetings all day? I mean, it's just ridiculous. How on earth, I'll say, how on earth can you know? The object of marketing is to bring the voice of the customer to the boardroom, right? So how can you do that unless you're freaking talking to them?
Yeah.
On a regular basis. And the thing is, they'd love to talk to you about this stuff, because customers, loyal customers, even new customers, they want us to succeed. They want us to do well. They want to help. Now, that's not to say that everything that comes out of their mouth we should believe, okay? I firmly believe that customer centricity is a total load of bullcrap, okay? Customer surveys, taking that as gospel, as that single point of voice of the customer research, total and utter failure. And we can talk about that some other time.
Yeah,
perhaps,
well,
right?
because what they say might not be the actions that they're actually taking.
It's not only may not, okay? It is, and there's plenty of anecdotal and empirical evidence. They will tell you what you want to hear, right? The prefrontal cortex is a bullshit artist and will tell you as a person whatever you think is a plausible and rational explanation of your behavior. But that's not how we work. Sorry, I'm slipping into behavioral science here.
No,
now.
this is actually perfect, because it is really important. You know, people would either have data, they'd have storytelling. We've put them together now, but if you're not sending the message to the right person and understanding what their motivations are, and you're not talking about benefits and how you're helping them out, you know, so you do have to get into, I think a lot of people do forget to think about that side of the coin, and you can't. I mean, my daughter is going to major in neuroscience. She does not want to become a marketer, but I always tell her, hey, if that's something that you want to do instead of being in a lab, you know,
Sure.
there are going to be tons of jobs available for you.
Absolutely. For people who know what they're doing, and this goes across any industry, for people who know what they're doing, for people who actually add value to the equation, right? Automation, AI, all of this stuff is nothing to be feared, okay? But the charlatans, the con artists, yeah, they should be worried. But that's great. That's exactly what we want. That's Darwinian, right? That's the meteorite hitting the dinosaurs. This is fine. I've got no problem with that, right? There are plenty of dumb people, I'm using the word people. Notice I'm being very careful with my choice of words, Annika. You should tell me I need to mind my language, okay? There are dumb people. We have enough dumb people in marketing. We don't need any more. Please keep away, right? We only want people who can make a contribution. If you're not adding to the signal, you're adding to the noise, and we've got plenty of noise. We don't need any more of that, okay? So I think it's important that marketers used to be about understanding how people thought. It's marketing psychology, okay? Marketing is understanding how the brain makes mental associations, how it remembers, the factors that it uses to trace those memory patterns, so that we as marketers, all we can do is carve out those memory structures so that when a person who fits our total addressable market, our TAM, is in the position to buy, we are one of the considerations that they're making when they're looking to make that purchase.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. Okay? So when I'm looking to buy a whatever, you guys are one of the people that I'm considering, because it's brought you to mind. That's all marketing can do. And if we don't spend enough time to understand how the human brain works, how the human mind works, not how the human brain works, and how behavior, how environment, how context influences purchasing decisions, then we can't best articulate our message in a way that forms those memory structures. You can think of it as being SEO for your brain, right? So you're putting in a keyword and bang, we come to mind. That's what we're trying to do. So if you don't know how the mind works, then what are you going to do? Wave a wet finger in the air and hope that, the wind's coming from the north, or what? I mean, I don't know. How are you going to do it? Use the force? I don't get it. I don't understand how people think it's going to happen. What, we just pay Google, Facebook, Insta, tick these guys loads of money and we think that we're going to get sales? No, right? 90% of that traffic is from bots, right? And even the rest of it, where are we getting the metrics from? From the media platforms themselves, right? The kids are in charge of the candy store and we're believing all of this stuff. Now, that's not to say that digital advertising doesn't work. What I'm saying is don't believe any of those metrics that are coming out of those systems because they are, they're a work of fiction.
Yeah.
Absolute work of fiction. I'm getting het up here now, Annika. I need to take a deep breath. Because it's winding me up because there are people who are losing their hard-earned money against these sorts of things, and it really annoys me.
Well, yeah, and there's so many other things that we can touch on here with digital privacy, AI, and to be quite frank, even though I teach digital media management, I have not posted on social media for a long time. I mean, every once in a while for my personal, but I haven't posted about my podcast. So, and what it's shown me is even my audience has grown. I'm charting in 10 countries. So honestly, why would I spend money?
Maybe there are other forces at work.
Right. Why would I be spending money in that arena? Right. I do some digital advertising, but honestly, I really feel like it's more about the conversations that I'm having with guests, the caliber of guests that I get to speak to and now consider part of my network. And, that's elevated and that's led to a lot of other opportunities that have expanded my brand awareness, which is then, of course, back into the podcast. So that's one thing that I noticed that I immediately thought of when you were talking about some of these things. And the other thing is that just yesterday in class, I was talking to students about mirroring, neural coupling, what parts of the brain are activated, activate sight, sound, touch, all of these different emotions and feelings.
System 1 and System 2. Do you do any of that stuff?
I didn't do that, but I'm going to have to, and then I have to now.
System 1 and System 2. I mean, start with Kahneman's book, right? Thinking Fast and Slow.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Kahneman, okay? Which is the Bible, really.
Yeah, I do have that book.
I would sort of dilute it down because it's not exactly an easy read. I mean, that's putting it mildly. It is tough, okay? But it is the Bible. Kahneman is the father of behavioral psychology, as far as I'm concerned. There are plenty of other books, but Thinking Fast and Slow is where you need to start with. And for students, they need to understand System 1 thinking versus System 2 thinking and how for marketing, it's not System 2 or System 1. It's System 2 and System 1. Because once you understand how the brain makes memories and how emotion plays into a buying decision, and it can't just be logical, rational, sequential thought processes, that there needs to be emotion within the messaging. Once you understand that, automatically the quality of your marketing output goes up. The effectiveness of your marketing output goes up. But we're not doing that. We're doing death by bullet point and we're wondering why nobody's buying our crap.
Here are all of the different products that are in my lipstick instead of what are the benefits of those products? How are they going to make me feel?
How do we buy? Okay. We buy here. We buy emotionally. We buy from the heart. Anything. And that's whether it's B2B or B2C. It does not matter. And the only difference being in B2B, you have more than one stakeholder involved. You've got more than one person you need to convince. But otherwise, anything we buy at any price, we buy emotionally. And then we post-rationalize logically. We tell ourselves a story to justify our purchase. And we do that for everything. The only exception to that rule is something where the inherent value or perceived value of the thing in mind has no real, tangible, transactional, inherent value. So a commodity, okay? For instance, I don't particularly care which brand of paperclip I buy. I'm guessing you don't either. So you buy on the only measurable dimension that matters to you in when there's nothing else to compare it to, which is, of course, price. So you buy the cheapest. And as long as the basic quality threshold is met, it's very difficult to make a paper clip that doesn't clip paper, right? The bar's set pretty darn low. As long as that, you don't care, right? So this is why we get into system 1 versus 2 thinking. We get into the differentiation between price and value and the perception of value and how marketing can change the perceived value of a thing without physically changing any of the characteristics of that object. And there are plenty of examples that we both know, right?
Yeah.
Where this is the case.
I can see how you can lecture for 4 hours and hold and captivate
I'm sorry,
your students.
I'm
No,
truly.
truly.
I apologize.
I'm saying I really see how they could hang on every word because you have so much to give and so much knowledge and the way that you're explaining things. What's really great about this conversation is it's not necessarily like my typical podcast episodes. We didn't go through, here are the things that you need to do or consider, think about. But from this, I feel that people really have a great understanding of the passion and the essence of you and what you do at your business, at Casino. So, yeah. And I think that's one of the most important things.
It's not meant to be an ad for our marketing agency. No,
of course.
Because we're a small agency, okay? We're 19 people. That's all there is. So there's only a finite number of clients that we can take on at any one time. And we don't take on more than we can actually work with, service. And we don't want to get any bigger than we are. To be honest, I didn't think we'd be 19 people. I didn't think we'd be more than about 5. But we are where we are. So it's not like the reason why I do these podcasts, Annika, and I'm being absolutely truthful here, okay? It's not to drum up business for me or my agency, okay? It is to make people aware of what they need to look for if they are looking for support in their marketing in whatever level. It doesn't matter whatever level, because I don't want people to lose their shirt to those marketing bros, because that makes all our lives that much harder, right? There's a saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So I think the more people are aware of what marketing actually is and what marketing isn't, and what to listen for if you are actually, considering to onboard a marketing agency within your business, the sorts of questions that they should be asking you and should not be asking you should set off your spidey sense and know when you need to walk away. And that's why I do things like this. And this is why I post 2 videos a week on LinkedIn, and they're like 1 minute long, 30 seconds long sometimes, about different particular subjects that either rattled me that particular week or things that I think may be useful to somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've been doing it for nearly 3 years. Right. And that's a tough cadence, I'll tell you. Okay. Right. Talk about second album syndrome. I mean, this is that on spades. But I do this. I don't need any more business. I'm not looking for business.
Right. Yeah.
I'm looking to raise awareness of what marketing is and isn't.
And these are things people really need to consider. I'm going to do something I've only done once in about 500 episodes. And we're going to do a part 2 to this episode.
Okay.
And
I'm honored. Wow.
When we do that, so we'll set up time when we jump off, but I want to get more into the marketing mistakes that small business owners make and talk about, a lot of times people would come to me with I'm ready for PR. I have a website. I have social media. I have a name. I have a logo. But I will always take them back to, but who are you as a brand? Right. And I think there are probably some things people come to you with where you have to kind of reframe and have them take a step back and take them through a process.
And that's a very delicate conversation to have.
Yeah. So we're going
to... They've invested a lot to get to where they have. And, nobody likes to be told their baby's ugly, right?
Yeah. Well, and some people don't, and they don't understand it, and they are not your perfect client. So we're going to lift that conversation up on our next call.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. And especially, I didn't realize you've never done this for 500 episodes, but I'd love to come back and do a part 2. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So audience, to be continued. I hope that you enjoyed listening to this conversation as much as I enjoyed having this conversation. And G, we will be back again with part 2. So until then, don't forget to leave a rating review on your favorite podcast platform to everybody who's listening. And thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate it. You are the reason why the audience has grown. You're the reason why more people are listening, and why so excitedly we're ranking in charts in 10 countries on Apple marketing charts. So appreciate you all for being there and being part of this experience. Don't be a stranger. Reach out. Let me know what episodes resonate with you, or what you want to hear and what you want to see. And until then, G, I'm excited to have our next conversation, and have a beautiful evening, weekend on your side of the world. And
thanks again for the opportunity, Alika. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.